Hi students, I wanted to break up the researching ethical video just because it's a little lengthy and give you some time to digest that first part where we talked about summarizing, paraphrasing, and directly quoting and how you want to lean more on summary. But once you have a summary or a direct quote or a paraphrase and you want to give credit to the source, how do you do that? So remember that when we were on the website for the Occupational Outlook Handbook, I had summarized this section about what arbitrators do because that was my chosen career. And I had said, okay, pretend oops, don't look at that. I'm writing my essay, and instead of copying and pasting in, I want my default to be summary. And so this is the summary that I might work in. But I also, MLA says, and APA, but we're dealing with MLA, says I need to give credit to this source right after I summarize, paraphrase, or directly quote from it. So you might be giving credit quite often in your presentation and in your essay because a lot of this information is probably stuff you did not know before. So how do I give credit? Well, the basics of MLA, remember I'm going to link to these websites so you can find them in Blackboard. But this is the Purdue OWL website. Purdue is a school. And they say the basic way or the basic rules for citing in text, that's one thing they call it, in-text citation, citing in text, documenting in text, or parenthetical citation because it's often found in parentheses. Those are the names for it. So if you hear your instructor say those kind of phrases, don't tune out. Don't think, oh, this doesn't apply to me because I don't know what they're talking about. It's your job to tune in at those parts and go, ooh, excuse me, pardon me. Raise your hand and say, what do you mean by that if you don't know that vocabulary? So this method involves placing relevant source information in parentheses after a quote or a paraphrase. So it depends on what the source has, what you need to use to give credit, and that's where it can get really tricky because there are so many different kinds of sources and so many different ways to cite them, and no one expects you to memorize them all, but we do expect you to do due diligence and try to figure out, using a handbook, using a website, using a tutor, using your instructor, how to cite in text. So they say if you know the author and the page number, so if you have a source and it's got a clear written by so-and-so, that's what you need to cite in text is the author. And MLA says typically it's the author's last name. So here they give you a quotation from Wordsworth, who was a poet. So it says, Wordsworth stated that romantic poetry was marked by a spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. And you see the quotations means that's a direct quote. Now MLA says you can give credit to the author either in the sentence by including the last name in the sentence, or if the author's not that important to what you're saying, if we don't really care who the author is, sometimes you can put it parenthetically. Or all the time you could put it parenthetically. I'm just saying it depends on whether or not we care as writers and audience members who the author is. So you'll see there's a little number here too, and this is because this was pulled from a book where there's a page number. Now you're probably going to be dealing mostly with sources that are on the interwebs, and so probably not many page numbers on the interwebs. Sometimes you'll run across one, there'll be like a PDF. I don't know if you've ever heard that term. I think it's portable document file. Some of you are much more knowledgeable about this stuff than I am. And so those sometimes will have an actual scanned chapter from a book on the web or a magazine or something like that. And they might have page numbers. But if they're not, then we're going to talk about that scenario, but basically don't worry about it. So you'll see parenthetically you've got the author either in the sentence or parenthetically at the end. It's kind of strange how the spacing works there. You've got the end of your quotation or the end of your sentence, a space with no period or anything there, and then this parenthetical citation and then a period. So the period goes after the parenthetical citation. If you're doing this in a presentation format where, you know, maybe you're dealing in bullet points, although that one video really scared me away from bullet points now. You know, if you're dealing with bullet points or phrases, obviously you would not have to worry about putting a period after it because it's not a complete sentence. You could just put the parenthetical citation after the quote or paraphrase or summary in your presentation. Same applies to your essay. So then that source will also be listed on your works cited list, and there's a specific format for that too, of course. So if you know your author, you can put them in the sentence, but it even tells you if there's a corporate author. So sometimes there's an author, but it's not, you know, Jon Snow. It's, well, it's, who is our corporate author here? The Bureau of Labor Statistics, or the Humane Society, or Greenpeace, or, you know, there's an organization instead of just one person who is the author. And so in that case, that would be the organization is who we would give credit to in text. Okay, let's see. In text for print sources with no known author, that's what we were saying. If there's no author listed, then you can also just give the web page where you found it or the article title where you found it. So for instance, let's see, if I look up what do mediators do or something like that on a daily basis. That looks interesting. Well, they're not giving me mediators, so let's just take one as an example. That's a wiki. We don't want that. You guys know to stay away from Wikipedia, hopefully. And the only reason for that is because we don't know the authors and that it's edited by people, and sometimes it's fact-checked, but sometimes it's not. So it's really not the best source. So I don't know. Let's see if we can find even a source that might look good. Maybe this one. Let's see. So top accounting degrees. This looks all right at first glance, although this might be a blog. It is a blog. Man, it's hard to find good stuff. And it might be a good blog, but I'm really not gonna mess around with it right now. Let's see if I can find a source to use as an example. No, not that, because that has an author. Sorry, guys. Let me see. Princeton Review. Well, that's a credible name. So let's pretend we're looking to be, what do we want to be? Let's be in public relations. I don't know if I can handle that, but let's pretend. Okay, so let's say this is a source, a day in the life of a public relations. Oh, I don't know. That's not good. Why does Princeton Review have typos? So, but let's say we want to take something from here. There's no, you got to scroll down. There's no author listed, corporate or otherwise. So if we wanted to write about this passage, if we wanted to, you know, quote or paraphrase or summarize from this passage, then what would you say would be the title? Since there's no author, MLA says go to the title of the page and give credit to that in text of your paper. So maybe some of you are thinking the Princeton Review, maybe some of you are thinking public relations, maybe some of you are thinking a day in the life of a public relations. Gosh, what a nightmare title that is. So I would go here with public relations. This seems to be the title of the whole web page. So remember, sometimes students have a hard time remembering that there's a distinction between a web page and a website. The website is the Princeton Review. The web page, this particular page, is public relations. And sometimes if you look at the URL, the address up at the top, you can kind of see, oh, the website is generally the first part, and then after a forward slash or anything like that, there might be some indication of the title of the page. So if I don't have an author like this source, then I would be putting in public relations as my title, like instead of impact of global warming. And it would be in quotation marks because you put short titles of short works in quotation marks according to MLA. And we would just leave the page number off because if we go back to that page, there are no page numbers. So we wouldn't worry about that. So I know this is a lot to take in. And like I said, if we were dealing with this source and we were going back to our summary here, what I would do is, there's no page number. So Bureau of Labor Statistics, U.S. Department of Labor, that's what I would do, and then period after the end. But just make sure, so I copied and pasted my Bureau of Labor Statistics in there, and you know, when you're trying to make it all fit in MLA format, it should all be the same font and the same size and the same color. Sometimes students copy and paste and they don't change things. So there's that in there. So that's the basics of citing in text, and I will link to this Purdue OWL site for you. And also useful, though I'm not going to go through a lot of it now, is this is our library, LSSCs, and they made up this MLA citation guide for you. And the first couple pages deal with samples for in-text. So if you have questions about that, again, you can ask a librarian, a learning center tutor, an English tutor, probably not a math tutor. You can ask me. You've got some places to go if you're trying to figure that stuff out. But I would like you to give credit to your sources in your presentation and in your essay. So you give them in text and you also give them on a works cited page. So a works cited page, let me start over here. MLA works cited page basic format. This is a page that is the last page of your essay or the last page of your presentation or a separate page of your presentation if you're just making a video of yourself. You can do it that way, where all the sources you used in your presentation are listed. And so you should at least have 3 sources total. Your occupational handbook is 1. Or did I say 4 sources? I'm sorry, let me look and say, oh yeah, 4 sources total, because you've got your Occupational Outlook Handbook, and then you've got at least 3 other sources. So you want to look at those. And they do have here a sample MLA paper, so you can see in a sample works cited page, if you're looking in the menu here, here's the sample paper. Oh, you have to download the paper. Let's see. And our library has one as well that I will attach to Blackboard. But it tells you how to format the paper. And some of these aren't really applicable to us. Like it says, the thesis statement is usually the last sentence of your introduction, but we're not focusing on thesis statements. This mostly what I want you to pay attention to with MLA is the format. So 1-inch margins, 12-point font, Times New Roman, having all your information up here the way you're supposed to have it, having a running header. That's what I'm looking at for when I talk about MLA format. But just so you can see, here is, whoa, this is a long one. Boop, 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 boop. A sample works cited page. So this person, you can see, has many sources. That's 1, 2, 3, and so on. And I'm going to deal with the works cited page in a separate little video because this one's getting a little long. I think we need a break, and and that might be its own resource for you. So if you have any questions about in-text citation, last time, I'll say it again, librarians, English tutors in the Learning Center, and me. Those are 3 great resources you have. All right, thank you.